Good morning. Hello, I know it's early in the morning, but firstly, I just wanted to say thank you for you guys coming here to this presentation today. It's very much a passion project of mine, so I feel very privileged to be able to share it with you. So today is really, in this workshop, is all about how to grow your business with Google. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Karl. I'm a Google business expert, and pretty much what I help other small business owners do is to optimize their profile so that they have a top 1% on Google profile. We help them with their local SEO, particularly through Google reviews, reputation management. So think about this like when you get a 1-star or something less than a 5-star review, what do? What's the best way to handle that to protect your reputation? Google profile management, which is basically just like your SEO and your social media and how to manage that. And probably one of my favorite things, which is all around the client journey experience mapping. So today I'm going to be speaking to you from the perspective of my two businesses. The first one is called Xenox Diamonds. How many of you have heard of Xenox before? Great, it's literally 2 doors up, so I didn't have very far to walk to get here this morning. And the new business in what I hope which will be very informative for all of you, which is all about 5-star reviews. Just so you can see our profile so that I guess you kind of get an insight to what really for me has been the last 5 to 7 years in building our online reputation. This was taken last week, so we currently have 907 5-star Google reviews with a perfect ranking of 5 stars. But what I want you to show you over here particularly as well is when you look at that, as impressive as that is, the thing that really helps us from an SEO point of view is the fact that the one word that's mentioned in our reviews the most is engagement ring. So you could have lots of reviews, but if they're not optimized for your keywords, it's not going to be as effective as you'd like it to be. So the overview for today, we're going to talk about why Google reviews are a must-have strategy for 2022. We're going to do a little bit of a marketing audit for you to be able to work out, what's working in your business and maybe some other avenues that you can work on. And I've also got a Google review script that all of you are going to be able to take away from today and start implementing to start generating, 5-star Google reviews in the next 7 days. How many for you that sounds like a pretty good idea? Great, awesome. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about not only as a business owner but an entrepreneur is that I think being in business is really important, not just for the commercial result that we derive from being in business. That's important, otherwise you probably wouldn't go out and be in business. It's not just about developing value for our clients. It should also be about making a bigger impact in the world. So one of the things that I did earlier this year was launch our 10,000 Smiles campaign. And what the 10,000 Smiles campaign is all about is that I believe that when I help a client have an amazing experience, something amazing happens to their face. What do you think it is? They smile, they're happy. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be a great idea if I could make that smile travel a little bit further? And what if, when somebody had a great experience here in Brisbane, we also made it possible for somebody else to have a smile somewhere else in the world? So what we do for every client that we work with, when we help them get a Google review for their business, we donate 1 day of vocational training to a young woman in the Philippines to help pull herself and her family out of poverty. Because we know that if you look after the women in the economy, I'm sorry guys, but when you look after the women in a community, they look after the whole community. They look after their children, they look after their parents, they look after their cousins. And even by you all being in here today, so I think there's about 50 odd people here in the room today, you have also made it possible, just by turning up, we're going to donate 1 day of education for every one of you that's sitting here in the room. So it's my hope that through this, we can reach our 10,000 Smiles campaign, which is 10,000 smiles, 10,000 Google reviews, and 10,000 days worth of training and education for young women in the Philippines. So I'd just like to do a little bit of a check-in. What business are you in? I've done a little bit of a sort of a walk around earlier today. So what did you say you were in? It's in?
Creative agency.
Creative agency. And what did you say you're in? IT. You had something really interesting, aerospace engineer. That's pretty cool. All right. Who else has got something else interesting? What do they do for business? Who will share? Yep. Interior designer. Nice. Very cool. See, what I'd love for you to kind of get from this is that you will find that there's a massive range of businesses that this will work for. I have not yet found any business that this strategy won't work for. So it doesn't matter whether you're in IT, an interior designer, even an aerospace engineer, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll realize that this works for absolutely everybody. How many of you ever had this thought? I wonder where all the customers are. Yes? Okay, a few hands. Thank you for your honesty. Here's something for you. A lack of revenue is never the problem, but a lack of reputation is. I'll say that again for you. A lack of revenue is not the problem in your business. A lack of reputation is. It doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer, a cleaner, a chef, a doctor, a chauffeur, or you have a coffee shop. Right now, there are people in business that are earning 3 times much as what you are. They're not any better necessarily at what they do. They just have a reputation in the market that dictates that that's what they're worth. So one of the things that I do with the clients that I work with is that once we help them build their online reputation in Google, one of the first things we say to them is, put your prices up. Because it doesn't matter if you miss a couple of people, you'll be making a lot more revenue by charging more for the services, which is really the definition of leverage, right? It's like doing more with less. Who likes the sound of doing more with less? Yeah, me too. So sometimes people come to me and they say, Karl, can you help me fix my Google review situation? I've got none, and I want some. Like I want to get started. I'm finding it really difficult to get Google reviews. And sometimes they come to me and they say, look, I'm really worried about getting a 1-star review. Or maybe I've gotten a 1-star review. How do I make it go away? And then there's the third group of people that say, you know what? I really just want to dominate my market. I want to be seen as the key person of influence in our sector or our industry. How do I make that happen? So just by a quick poll, how many for you in this room would be in the first category? You want to fix, you want to get started with your Google review journey. You don't have many, but you'd like to find out how to get some. Awesome. And what about the middle one? You're worried about getting a 1-star review and you want to make sure that you buff it against that? Interesting, less. Okay, great. And how many for you would like to dominate your market and be seen as the #1 person in your industry? Okay, so maybe a combination of 1 and 3. It's okay to have 1 and 3. You don't have to be, it can be all right. So today what I want to show you is that in less than 10 minutes a day, you can generate 1 to 3 warm leads that are coming into your business every single week. Ultimately, what I want for you is to make the leads come to you. How many for you sounds like a good idea? Have your leads actually coming to you rather than you going out and hunting for them. But this is not about spending a single dollar on Facebook ads. One of my clients before he came to work with me actually had a fitness business, had just spent $50,000 on Facebook ads. And he generated a new client at about a cost of acquisition of about $1,000 a lead, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you understand that his monthly recurring revenue from each client that he signed up was only $100, it was going to take him a full almost year to recover that initial investment in the hope that they stayed on past that first year, which for me doesn't sound like a great return on the marketing investment. So just by show of hands, how many of you in the last probably 12 months have probably either said this out loud or thought this? I would like more high quality, qualified leads to sell to. The key word there is qualified and quality, obviously. What about, this is another one that I'm hearing more and more. I can't find any good people to come and work with me. Like there's no good people out there. Anyone been saying that? Yeah? And the last one is, I'm finding it difficult to convert clients. Like clients are just taking longer to convert. It just seems like hard work. Okay? The truth is, if you said yes to any of those, then probably the area of greatest work that you can do in your business right now is to focus on your reputation and building up that reputation-driven revenue to come into your business. Imagine now if I said you could have a digital marketer come and work in your business. Okay? They're going to work 24/7. They're never going to take holidays. They're never going to get sick. You don't even have to pay them any taxes or superannuation. You don't even have to pay them a wage. And they're going to get better every year. How many of you would like a team member, an employee like that working in your business? Yeah? What was the key part there? Not having to pay anything for them, right? Okay, that's exactly, if you build this Google review asset in your business, that's exactly what Google reviews can do for you. So for those of you who don't know what Google Business is there anyone here in this room that doesn't know what Google Business Profile is? Okay, great. All right, so Google Business Profile, it's okay. Google Business Profile is just like the indexing way. It's the way that Google potentially finds your website, and it's kind of like a signpost to show Google where to send the traffic, okay? And if you don't know what it looks like, this is when you type in your business, this is kind of what shows up, this right-hand panel that you see here. And the way to get there is when you're logged into Google, these 9 little dots up the top there, you'll see this little icon, and that's how you get into your Google Business Profile. So one of the things that we run is and it's beyond the scope of what I can teach you today, but we run a 7-day challenge, which is all about how to optimize your Google profile so you get a top 1% on Google. And day 1 is all about keyword discovery. Very often what I find is that people's profiles are not optimized for the words that their clients are searching for. Have you ever had that feeling where you thought it was one thing, but then you found out that everybody else thought it was something else? You know, a simple analogy for that is, you know, the words course and program sound very, very similar, right? To most people, they might even be the same thing. But to your clients, if you're always thinking program, but your clients are searching for courses, they may never come across your profile. So what we do in the keyword discovery is we show you how going through Google to find out exactly how your clients and the words that your clients are using to find your profile so that you optimize it so there's a perfect match. Posting guide. How many of you knew that through your Google Business Profile, you could actually post like you post on LinkedIn and Facebook? Yeah, handful full of people. How many of you are doing it every single week? Not so much. Okay, good, excellent. So that's kind of like the Google standard, is to post once a week on your Google Business Profile. The insights and stats. When we look at, how many of you have ever looked at Google Analytics? How many of you like Google Analytics? Okay, it's very convoluted, it's very hard to kind of work out what Google's doing. The insights and statistics that you can get from the Google Business Profile are really user-friendly, super easy to navigate, and can give you some real insights into what your clients are typing in and what's triggering your profile. So we show you how to look at that. A keyword targeted bio. Very often when I'm doing an audit of somebody's Google Business Profile, I'll find something like, so if I talk about Xerox, Xerox is a 46-year-old second-generation family business. And that will typically be like the first line of their bio. I've got a secret for you. There is no one out there searching for a 46-year-old second-generation family business. That is not what they're searching for, but yet that's how people write their bio, typically like it's a corporate brochure. So what we do is we take the keyword discovery that we learned from day 1 and we make sure that that is basically littered through every aspect of your Google Business Profile. So starting with the client's problems, because people want to find out, how do you solve my problem? Not talking about yourself and what you're known for. You know, we've won so many awards and all that sort of stuff. No one is searching for that. So you have to think about what the client is searching for and optimize your profile so that it shows that. Geotagged photos. This is super important in your profile. Okay, so when you have a photo that's geotagged and keyword tagged, what that does is it sends Google so much more information. Google says this is a genuine review, it's been placed at this pinpoint here on the ground, and so we're going to send more local traffic through to that profile. So making sure that all of your photos are geotagged and keyword tagged. Products and services, probably the one aspect of almost every single Google profile that I come across that is not done. How many of you are in a service-based business? I think there was a lawyers in the room, yeah? Did you know that you can actually turn your services into products and feature them prominently in your Google Business Profile? It's also really important to understand that your profile shows up very differently when you're looking at it on mobile versus desktop. So you have to make sure that you're optimizing it for both views. Okay? And Google reviews. So we show you how to get started on your Google reviews and start building out your Google review portfolio. So how does Google see us? How many of you have ever started talking about something and then all of a sudden you start seeing ads pop up? Has that happened to anybody else? Yeah. Now, I'd like to think that Google right about now is not listening to every single thing that we're saying, but they probably are. Okay? But when we talk about Google reviews, what Google is relying on is they kind of look at us like ants. We're out there bumping into stuff and saying, oh, there's something good over here, or don't go over there. So they're relying on the information that we put into Google reviews to justify what profiles show up based on what search terms. See, Google makes its money by having the perfect match between what you as the client is searching for and the best possible match to that search. Okay? So the better that Google can predict that, the more money it can charge for ads, the more people use their platform. Now, has anyone ever heard of being a local business guide? Yeah? Did you notice that Google gamifies and incentivizes you to write detailed Google reviews, post photos? What level Google Guide are you?
Several steps up.
Yeah?
Getting invitations to review more and more places.
Great. So Google's very clever, right? They gamify you to teach you that that's what they want. Okay? But they will also reward you as a business if you can get your clients to do that. Okay? So that's what I kind of want to get you to understand, is that they want to make sure that you are leaving good, detailed Google reviews with photos for your profiles. Does everyone understand what I mean when I talk about SEO? Search engine optimization, which basically means eyeballs. How many eyeballs would you like on your business or your profile? Now, a lot of times when people talk about SEO, we often think about back-end SEO, which is backlinking, optimized blogs, and that side of things. So that's back-end SEO. What I teach business owners how to do is front-end SEO, or your local SEO, so your search from your local side of things. The great thing is that all of you, I think that's the first round on the bar, the great thing is that all of you can do the front-end SEO all on yourselves. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars for digital marketing agencies to do this for you. Okay? It's super easy to do once you know how. Okay? So how does it break down? Well, about 36% of your local SEO comes from your Google business profile, if you have optimized it. If all you've done is claim it and then put it in the bottom drawer, it's not going to be doing much value for you. And about 16% of your SEO comes from your Google reviews. But again, if you have the best quality Google reviews. See, most people don't know that there's about 5 different levels of a Google review. But most businesses are hitting the bottom 2. So if you're able to get a level 5, 5-star Google review, it's far more powerful and contributes significantly towards your SEO. So these 2 things alone, your Google business profile and your Google reviews, account for more than 50% of your local SEO. And it's something that all of you in the room can do on your own. So I did this search the other day. I was looking just for a local dentist here in Brisbane. Now at the very top of that, which I cropped out, were all the ads. Okay, so when we search for a particular search term, at the very top we get ads. Then below that we get the local map search, which is the part that you see here in the middle. And then below that we get the organic search that comes below. Okay, so when you look at that, where do your eyes go? Do they go up here to where the reviews are, the simple, easy business information, phone numbers, direction, website? Or does it go down here where all the organic lists go? So hands up if it goes up the top where all the reviews are. Okay, and for anyone else, the organic search? Okay, good. Okay, interesting to note here. What do you notice about the top 2 listings? The one with the most amount of Google reviews isn't in the number 1 position. Okay, isn't that interesting? It's not about having the most amount of Google reviews. It's about the quality and health of your Google reviews, and it's how well your Google business profile is optimized that will get you into that number 1 spot. An interesting statistic is that the amount of traffic that typically goes into the number 1 listing is about double of that in the number 2. Why? How many of you feel like today you're probably more time poor than you've ever been before? Okay? Back in the old days, I used to think that people would go out and shortlist us between 3 businesses. They'd go out and search, I'll see you, I'll see you, I'll see you, and then whoever's the best gets the business. Today, people are so time poor, they just want to look on Google, go, who's the best, and I'm going there. It's as simple as that. And provided you do a good job of it, they're probably not going to go anywhere else. How many of you remember the yellow pages, particularly the print version? Do you remember those ads, the not happy Jan ads? Okay, I remember every single year the yellow pages rep coming to see me. And it was almost like every single year the ads went up $1,000. And they would pressure you and say, look, if you don't sign on the dotted line now, you miss out, you're going to lose your spot, your competitors are going to take it, and you'll never be able to get it back. This was really all about what I call the print age. A little while later, we moved into the digital age, which is about click-throughs and impressions, which had a really big rise because people liked the fact that you could track it. The problem now is that people have really abused that. How many of you have ever felt victim to clickbait ads? Like you clicked on something, you thought it was this, but when you got there, it wasn't that. Okay? About 83% of people today do not trust conventional advertising. Then we've moved from that into the reputation age. How many of you know this guy up there on the stage? Would you say that he has a really good reputation or a bad reputation? Yeah, on the whole, probably good. Whether you like Flying Virgin or not, you would say that he's got a really great reputation. I've actually been very fortunate enough to spend a couple of weeks with Richard at his home in Necker Island and also Africa. I can tell you that the guy that you see is probably one of the most humble people you'll ever meet. A true British, English gentleman. Really genuinely believes in the people in his team and has some amazing philosophies around how he runs his business. But whether you like him or not, the Virgin brand is something that I think that the majority of people would probably think about favorably or positively. So, as I said, people today want to look on Google and find out who is the best person to come and see. I generally ask almost every single client when I see them, how did you find us? And at the time of sale, I ask them, why did you choose us? How many of you do that with your clients? How did you find us and why did you choose us? Okay? One of the things that I'm frequently finding is that when I ask them, why did you choose us? I'm expecting them to say, well, I had 2 or 3 people to see, but today all I'm hearing them say is, I looked on Google, you had the most amount of reviews, and this was the only place we're coming. There was not even another 2 people on the shopping list. Here's an interesting statistic for you. 53% of internet users between the ages of 25 and 34 post a review at least once a month. Now, as the age groups got a little bit older, that number reduced slightly, but not by much. What this is showing you is that more and more people every single day are writing Google reviews more than they've ever have before. So if there are more and more people writing reviews than they ever have before, it stands to reason that there are more and more people reading reviews. Okay? And this is supporting that move into the reputation age that we're talking about. So when you think about marketing being the old way or the new way, the old way is really low trust. Like I said, most people today do not trust conventional ads. It takes high effort. You have to have graphic designers, you have to kind of work out what the ad looks like, and ultimately it's generated by you as the business owner. If we contrast that with the new way of marketing, which is all around reputation-driven revenue, it's high trust, it's low effort, and my favorite part is that it's user-generated, which means that I don't have to do it because my clients are doing it for me. So I want to talk quickly about the story about how I came to kind of really unearth this kind of philosophy that I'm teaching you today. I remember in 2020, I was in Germany visiting my family. That's where my parents and that side of family comes from. And I remember seeing this whole thing about the pandemic and thinking, this is probably just another SARS or a swine flu. It'll blow over in a couple of months. And was anyone else like me thinking that at the time? No, I was the only one. Yeah, maybe a few people. Great. Little did I know the catastrophic effect that it would have. When you're in the diamond business and you specialize in engagement and wedding rings, and the government comes out and bans weddings, do you think it might be a bad thing for your business? Yeah? Almost everything overnight stopped. We pretty much lost 97% of our revenue for 8 weeks. The worst part about it is there was no end in sight. It wasn't like this was going to end in 3 weeks or 6 weeks. It was just seeming to go on forever. Almost everybody that we had in the front end flow of our lead flow died, stopped. Everyone was ghosting. People weren't in a great place. And all of our clients that we'd done work for didn't want to venture out, wanted to kind of hang on to as much money as they could. And so I had a lot of time on my hands. And I was thinking, well, I need to get some new clients. Where is the best place to go and get clients? Well, I thought, well, I'll look and see where our clients had previously come from, because if that's where our clients were coming from, that's going to be the first place I'm going to go and look to try and get some more. Okay? What I found really amazed me. At that point in time, I was kind of in that blissful ignorance phase. How many of you have ever been in that phase where you didn't know what you didn't know, and you were just quite blissfully going along, ignorant of what was happening around you? All right? What I found was that in the previous year, so 2019, we generated over 173 sales, that's sales and not leads, that had come exclusively from our Google reviews, which was more than, at the time, which was more than $1 million in top-line revenue, and was accounting for more than 25% of all of our sales. The best part was not spent really a single dollar to generate that revenue. I thought, isn't that interesting? Hadn't even noticed or been recording it. I mean, we recorded everything through our point of sale, but I'd never really looked at the numbers as to see where our clients were coming from. So I thought I'd share some positive review stats. 93% of buyers say that reviews have greatly influenced their buying decision. And this is really, since the pandemic started, this has really increased quite sharply, because more and more people are doing researches from home before actually going out into the shops. 79% say they trust a review as much as a personal recommendation from a family friend, which I find is amazing. Right? They don't even know these people, and yet they trust them as much as a personal recommendation. This one is also a great stat. 31% of consumers said they would happily spend more with a business that had excellent reviews. So building your online reputation is so important as that first step to putting up your prices and becoming ultimately more profitable. But what about the bad review statistics? Because sometimes we just focus on the good stuff. We don't really take time to think about, well, what happens if you don't get this right? 94% of consumers say a bad review has caused them to avoid a business. 48% won't consider a business if you've got less than an overall ranking of 4 stars. So 3.5, 3.8, massive impact on your business. And last one here, 2 out of 10 consumers will choose not to use your business if you have a single 1-star review. So you imagine now, let's say in a whole year, 1,000 people look at your Google profile. Imagine if 200 of them, because of a 1-star review, decide not to use your business. Multiply that 200 by whatever your core product is, whether it's $100, whether it's $500, whether it's $1,000, and you can start to see that it can have a massive impact on your top-line revenue. Okay? And that's why when I'm working with a client that's getting a 1-star or something review, it's really important that we handle that in the best way possible. Too many times when I see someone responding to a 1-star review, they kind of go into battle. How many of you actually here have ever received a 1-star review? Hi, come on, you guys are all superstars. Not one single 1-star review. Is no one willing to own it? I'll own it. I can tell you now, if you get, oh, thank you. If you get a 1-star review, it stings. It's really painful. The best thing you can do is to breathe, walk away from the computer, do not respond in that moment. Because too many times I see things like, we've looked in our records and we can find no record of you ever attending our business. Or they go into fight and battle. Well, you know, we're justifying, we're blaming, we're making excuses. Let me ask you this. How many of you have more than one email address? Okay? How many of you use that other email address maybe for spammy kind of stuff or whatever? Okay? Let me tell you now that if someone's generally going to write a bad review, they're not going to use their main email address. Okay? They want to protect themselves a little bit, so they're going to use another email. So saying we've never found you in our records doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you are responding to that 1-star review, not just to the person that wrote it, but to everybody else who reads your response to that 1-star review. it is very well documented that people are reading the responses to reviews. And even if you have a 1-star review, if you respond in the right way, it almost negates the fact that you got a 1-star review. Okay? So I've got a special framework that I often teach that can turn a 1-star review into a 5-star review. And I've done it many times based on the framework. Okay? But the answer is to not come at it from a place of negativity or being upset about it. There are 2 things that can happen if you do that. And most people in the moment when they're responding to a 1-star review are not thinking this. Number 1, did you know this? That a client can go in and edit their 1-star review and make it worse. So they write something, you go in and write something like you're going into war. They can go in and go, I see you 1 and I'll raise you 5. So they can go in and make it worse. The second thing that they can do is that they can go online and get 5 of their friends to come in and leave also a 1-star review. So getting a 1-star review isn't always the worst thing, okay? It can get worse. So it's really important that you protect your reputation to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. Now, Google reviews are there forever. How many of you have ever tried to get a 1-star or a bad review taken down? How did it work out?
Well, mine was a false one.
Yep.
I hadn't been in my business at all. It was fully fabricated, but Google was actually pretty good at taking it.
Good, then you were very lucky. For most people to get a review taken down is very, very difficult. Okay? Ultimately, what I want you to get from this is that the business that is the most trusted on the internet will get the most inquiries. So it's all about how can you put yourself out there in the market as being the most trusted business in Google. 86% of clients will leave a Google review for you if you simply ask. I had a friend of mine recently that was celebrating her birthday at a coffee shop, and she was there with some girlfriends. They had a nice little brunch, and the business owner came out and knew it was their birthday, came out and shouted them coffees, gave them a personal happy birthday, spoke with them. I said, that sounds really amazing. I said, did you leave them a Google review? He said, no. I said, well, why not? I said, it was amazing, you enjoyed it, he went above and beyond. He said, well, it just didn't occur to me at the time. So again, if you take nothing out of this presentation, simply just ask more and more of your clients to leave you a Google review, and you'll start to see that actually filter through. I thought I'd share a case study here from one of my clients. Her name is Sarah from Ripley Vets. 12 months after implementing this reputation strategy into her business, she saw a 42% increase in her top-line revenue. She saw a 30% increase in her profit. She was actually in the red before working with me and then now well in the black. She also saw a 30% increase in her team to keep up with the extra work. One of the things that she found was that having this amazing Google review portfolio also made it easier to attract team members. Okay? So when I hear people say, business owners say, we can't find any good people to come and apply for our business, the reality is there are plenty of good people out there. They're just not applying at your business because they're looking at your profile, they're looking at the job ad, and they're just kind of swiping left. Okay? They're not even choosing to apply at your business. Okay, so having a focus on your reputation can have an amazing ripple effect throughout your whole business. But one of the things that she said to me was, it wasn't just that she got a bigger piece of the pie, it's like she almost grew the pie. People typically go to a vet within 10K radius of where the vet is. Their local vet, they just want to go there, it's simple and easy. What she found 12 months on was that clients were traveling 30Ks, passing 6 other vets to get to her, because of her Google review portfolio. I think the last time I checked on her profile, it was around 400 5-star Google reviews that she had, with photos and everything else. So if you don't want to just get a bigger piece of the pie, but you want to grow the pie, then focusing on your reputation is a great start. I put this slide up there because I wanted to kind of really sink in that having a website is no longer enough. Okay, spending $8, $10, $12, $15,000 on a website is no longer just enough. 64% of clients will get your contact details, i.e. your phone number, your address, your directions on how to get there from your Google business profile. versus 49% that will go through to the Contact Us page on your website. Now, generally speaking, we know this is true because the more clicks you make someone do, the more people you lose. Okay? And Google searches account for 90% of all searches on the internet. So really focusing on boosting the presence of your Google profile is ultimately going to mean more phone calls, more inquiries coming through to you directly. There's a new phenomenon out called zero-click searching. Has anyone heard of zero-click searching? Yes? Awesome. So zero-click searching is basically the phenomenon that clients today will find all of the information that they need to make a decision to interact with your business, be that make a phone call, email you, or decide to work with you without ever having visited your website. And in this study, they found that 77% of searches on mobile were gearing towards zero-click search versus nearly half on desktop. Okay, so that's why today having a website is just not enough. It's important, don't get me wrong, but it's not what you should only focus on. So here's the opportunity. Yes, if you focus on your reputation online and pimp out your Google profile and get lots of Google reviews, it's going to mean more leads, which is, as I said, going to help you increase your prices. It's going to also mean higher conversion. Okay, so you're going to attract more of the kind of clients that you want to work with. Because if people are reading your reviews, what they're seeing themselves is they're seeing themselves in your reviews. They're going to go, well, yeah, that's the kind of experience that I want. So I'm going to go along to that as well. And it's ultimately going to mean more cash in the bank. Okay, because once all of your fixed costs and everything are paid for, all of the additional sales that you generate through your Google reviews are basically going to mean more cash, more profit, and ultimately more time and impact that you can have without spending any money that you don't need to on ads. So sometimes when I'm talking with business owners about their strategy and where they are in this Google strategy framework, there's probably two indices here. One is around the business owner's capability. You know, they're either usually quite clueless around this Google review side of things, or they've done a bit of research and they're starting to become more clued in. And then there's the motivation. You know, are they coming from a place of fear, or are they coming from a desire to make this a powerful force in their business? In this bottom corner here, when you're coming from fear and you're quite clueless about your Google reviews and your Google business profile, the strategy is being controlled by the user, and it's being driven by the user. Okay, your clients know how to leave a one-star review for your business if they want to hurt you. Okay, so when you abdicate your reputation to the client, it's being driven and controlled by them, and it can be a really poisonous place to be as a business owner. Now, some business owners kind of start to read up a little bit about, particularly if they get a one-star review, and go, well, how do I counteract that? And in this phase here, the business owner is quite clued in. They understand now how to use Google reviews, but because they're coming from a place of fear, it's still being driven by the client. Now, this space here is more of a protection. They're trying to protect themselves from a one-star review, or if they get a one-star review, how can I push it down so that nobody sees it? Over in this quadrant here, the business owner has a desire to make this a powerful force in their business. They want to have that social proof working for their business, but because they're still clueless about it, they start to get inconsistent results. You know, it seems like, you know, on drip, it's hard work. And in this top phase here, where they've got a desire to make it work for their business and they're clued in, it really becomes more of a positioning statement. So they start to position their business and their reputation in the marketplace. But for most people, there's actually a hidden space in the model. And that space is in the top right-hand corner. How many of you know about the Tesla cars? I can tell you now, the day that we're allowed to have the auto drive feature, this is the first car I'm buying. If I can just get in my car and just put auto drive and go home, that's what I'm going to do. And the idea behind that is that if you can get your business to generate reviews almost on autopilot, it is an awesome feeling to have. In our business at Xenox, we generate anywhere from 3 to 10 Google reviews every single week. You know, every single week it just keeps coming in because we've created the system and the process in our business that makes that happen on autopilot. So I thought I'd share with you some of the things that you need to have a pathway to an amazing Google review portfolio. Now, the fact that you're all here in the room, I'm sure that you guys all have a great product or service. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here today. The next thing is you need to create a remarkable experience. I could give you all of the scripts, the systems, and the tools, but if you have a crappy client experience, you're unlikely to get an amazing Google review. So making sure that you're building that experience into the client journey. Surprise and delight elements. Does everyone know what I mean when I talk about surprise and delight elements? Does anyone not? Yeah? So surprise and delight elements are the little things that surprise a client in your customer journey experience. All too often, sometimes when I'm working with a client, I find out that they are surprising their clients but not delighting them. How many of you have ever received something and just gone, oh, you thought that was a good idea? You know, like maybe you've gotten a stubby cooler that's just plastered with the business owner's logo and everything on it. And they thought it was a really cool delight thing. But to you, you're just surprised. So it's really important that when you're building these into your customer journey experiences that you surprise and delight a client at the same time. Do you know who gets this really well? Poker machines. I know you laugh, right? It's called Intermittent Reward. If you don't know when the reward is coming, it's so much more powerful because you're surprised and you're delighted at the same time because you got the reward. So when you're looking at your customer journey experience, it's important to think about like a little slot machine. You also want to make sure that you have persuasive priming. Okay? All too often I see businesses out there and they kind of go and say, will you give me a Google review? Will you give me a Google review? And people go, where did that come from? I was not expecting that. But if you let a client know that a request for a Google review is coming, you increase the conversion ratio of actually receiving that review. Powerful scripts. A lot of times I hear people go out there and ask for a Google review and it sounds something like this. If you wouldn't mind, if it's not too much trouble, and it's okay if you're too busy, but would you mind, please, can I have a Google review? Would that be okay? How many of you are very confident in actually giving someone like that a Google review? You're kind of like, nah, maybe I'll do it later. Okay? So having a powerful script is really important to getting an amazing Google review. Having innovative tools to help systemize, automate your Google reviews, request and collection is important, and happiness window. What the happiness window is finding the optimum time to ask for a Google review. All too often I find people are asking for a Google review, but they're simply just doing it at the wrong time. Or they're just doing it in a way that's unremarkable. So another one of my clients, who's also a vet, I seem to attract lots of vet clients, but I was talking to her and we were customer journey mapping and I sort of said, okay, what happens here? Okay, what happens over here? And what happens here? And then she said, and then we ring the client and we book in a discharge appointment. And I said to them, do you call it that? They said, yes. Because you see, in their mind, they're thinking about discharge as in a medical term. Okay? If I asked you to think about a bodily discharge, what do you think about? Probably not something very pleasant. So what we did is we workshopped with them and we renamed the appointment to be called a reunite session. So now the front desk lady is ringing up Joe and saying, hey Joe, I'd love to book you in for a reunite session with Fluffy. How does that feel in the customer journey experience rather than we want to book you in for a discharge appointment? More remarkable, right? And further, what we did is we took the payment side of things out of that so that the whole experience was geared about the pet owner being reunited with their pet. Now, do you think that that would be a much more remarkable time to ask for a Google review? Right? So that's an example of what the happiness window looks like, and if you could craft that in a remarkable way. And of course, if you do that, you generally end up with an amazing 5-star Google review. So I love this quote, which is doing the right thing at the wrong time, is still the wrong thing. So even if you're asking for Google review, even if you're building up all of these remarkable experiences, if you're asking at the wrong time, it's still the wrong thing. Okay, so I'm hoping by now that most of you are thinking, hey, actually, maybe this reputation thing isn't a bad. But maybe there might be some of you still thinking there going, well, maybe it won't work for me. Okay, it's okay for you, Karl. You've got a diamond business. It's easy. Of course, you're making people happy. So let's have a talk about some of the roadblocks, some of the potential reasons why people might say that this reputation side of things won't work for them. I don't have enough time. For those of you that have ever learned to drive a manual car, you know, I know I'm showing my age here a little bit, but you know, you had the clutch, you had the shift, you had everything else, you had the mirrors, the indicator, like there was like 6 or 7 different things. And then after a while, it just became this one thing that you had to do. In the beginning, like with everything, when you learn how to do it, it does feel like a little bit longer. But I can guarantee you that after you do it for a while, it just becomes this extra little thing that you bolt on to what it is that you're doing already. It really does not take more than, you know, a minute or two in your current processes to add the Google review request side of things into that process. I don't have enough clients. Just by show of hands, how many of you probably work with, let's say, less than 10 clients in a week? Yeah? I typically can get anywhere from 2 to 3 Google reviews from one transaction. So one of the limiting, I know, he's like looking at me going, how's that possible? No, it's not about getting multiple Gmail accounts, okay? And this is a limiting belief that a lot of people have around Google reviews. Oh, well, I only see 10 clients, so I'm only going to be able to get maximum 10. The truth is that you have to look at every single opportunity to get a Google review. So you could do a Google review request from somebody that you just present a proposal for. Okay? If you do an amazing job of delivering a proposal and the client goes, wow, that was fantastic. You went above and beyond anybody else that I've ever met. Yeah, great. Could you share that on Google? If I have a client, sometimes it's obviously, most times it's a man and a lady. They're coming in for a ring. Guess what? I'll ask them both for a Google review. There's 2. If there's a mother or a father or someone else in there, I'll ask them for a Google review as well. So there are multiple opportunities once you start to look at it that you could ask for a Google review. Not my industry. Won't work for me. You know, I've got a B2B or I've got a construction industry. I guarantee you now, if you go on the internet, there's almost no industry out there somewhere in the world where somebody doesn't have a decent number of Google reviews. One of the common ones that I hear today is people in the medical industry. You know, APRA won't let us get Google reviews. The truth is you can. There are some strict things that you can do and some things that you can't do, but there are doctors out there that have, surgeons that have amazing Google reviews. You've just got to know how to do it. B2B, B2C. How many of you use that frame of those words, B2B, B2C? The truth is today that is a very old term. Today I believe that we live in a H2H economy, which is human to human. Almost every single human out there wants to buy from another human that they know, like, and trust. And even if you're in a creative or different industry like aerospace engineers, and that they come to you because of something or a referral, they probably still want to go online and check out what your reputation says about you. Or if they come to you via your website, they'll still check out your reviews to see how you stack up on the reputation side of things. So what I thought we'd do now is we'd do a little bit of a marketing audit to kind of get a feel for where you guys are. Emily's going to hand out this. This is a sheet that you can take away with you. There's a marketing audit on there as well as the framework that we're going to be going through shortly. But I'd love to get a feeling from you guys in the room. In your marketing, things that you've done probably in the last 12 months, what's worked? You could just shout it out. What have you tried that's worked well for your business? Because somebody next to you might get some ideas. Who will share what's worked for you in your business? Or maybe nothing's worked and that's why you're here. Okay, has anyone done anything, be it flyers, be it printing? So email marketing, potential partnership, referral style marketing can be a little bit hit and miss. A lot of these strategies, like sometimes people say to me, Karl, you know, I get a load of business from referrals. How many of you have ever either said that or heard someone say that I get most of my business from referrals? The truth is that referral marketing is actually the least strategic form of marketing you can do. There are so many things that have to align in the perfect order for a referral to work. Okay? We need to be sitting at a bar or a coffee shop. I need to say, hey, look, I need a lawyer. And you say, well, I happen to know this amazing lawyer. and then you have to think about that. You have to give me the contact details which you have on you. I've got to then record those contact details. I've got to remember at some point to ring that person, remember where I stored it, who I stored it under, and then reach out to kind of get in touch with that person. If any one of those steps in that process of referral marketing drop down, the referral doesn't work. Okay? So it's not a very strategic form of marketing. When we look at Google reviews and reputation-driven marketing, the person is in the searching and buying zone when your details come up. They are actively in that frame of mind of looking for the product, service, whatever it is that they're looking for when you come up. And from a strategic point of view, that is much better if your profile is showing when the client is in their looking, buying zone than when they're not. So it's a good opportunity to kind of write down what's worked, what hasn't worked, and ultimately, why do you think it hasn't worked? So when we talk about, like, say, the email marketing, why do you think that some of the conventional ways of marketing haven't worked? Any ideas? Yep. Spam, right? Like, so maybe open rate is conventionally, what, about 20% for email? So going through to spam. Why else do you think that maybe some of the conventional marketing hasn't worked? Or some of the things that you've tried? Yep, overwhelmed. You know, so much marketing's coming in. Do you know what the average attention span of a human today is? Who knows? Think of it in seconds. How many seconds?
Less than a golf pair.
Yeah, we're probably getting right into goldfish territory. Yeah, it's currently sitting at 8 seconds. The fact that it's 8 seconds isn't actually the shocking part. The shocking part is that it used to be 11 seconds. Okay, so over the last year or two, it's gone from 11 seconds down to 8, which I don't think is boding very well for where it may be heading in the future. Okay, so whether it's TikTok, whether it's any of these things, what are we doing? We're scrolling. We've got a short attention span. What's the next? All of that sort of stuff. So when we think about, so if we were talking about maybe what worked or what didn't work, some people might say social media. Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't do social media because it does have a place out there. I'm saying that you should probably do Google first. Okay, all the stuff that you post on Facebook or Instagram, the client is more in that kind of scroll time frame. They're either killing time, they're flicking past, they're waiting for a bus, whatever that is. They're kind of in that casual browsing, not really that searcher's intent of I need something, who's the best person to go for. And everything that you write in Facebook or Instagram isn't SEO loaded. When you write something in a Google post and you put it on Google, you get the full SEO benefit of everything that's written in there. Okay? So whether it's your product, services, photos, everything that you do in Google has an SEO benefit to it. So marketing ROI. The easiest way to work out what your marketing ROI, so later on when you go back and you work out what worked and what didn't, if you work out how many sales you got from that marketing, minus the marketing cost, and then divided by the marketing cost, will give you the ratio of how many dollars you spend versus the return on those dollars that you get. So when I look at Xenox, it costs us about $3,000 a year in terms of the platform that we use to help automatically generate the Google reviews and a few other bits and pieces. To generate more than $1 million in top-line revenue consistently year on, year out, every dollar that I invest in our reputation, I get about $320 back. How many of you would like the idea that if you gave me $1, I gave you $320 back? Oh, there's no takers. All right, a few people now. So the ROI on marketing your reputation, there is honestly nothing else that I've seen that beats that ROI. Okay, and again, the best thing is you can all do this yourself. So here is our framework. So in the reputation building framework that we run over 3 months, this is what we do. So we show you how to build your online reputation so that you have a world-class reputation. What does world-class reputation mean? Well, it means a lot more lead flow. It means that you have an incontestable reputation in the marketplace and you're creating these remarkable client experiences. Okay? So I just show you that there just so you get an idea of the process of all the things that you can do to implement. But what I thought is, of the 9 business accelerators, I thought I'd just quickly touch on differentiation. So differentiation is all about, how many of you ever had this kind of thought, like, I'm going to improve my business by 10%. I'm going to be 10% better than the competition. Has anyone kind of had that kind of thought? I want to be a little bit better than the competition? Yeah? No, the rest of you are all overachievers. Okay, so differentiation is how can you become so phenomenally different from the competition that you become the new benchmark by which all other businesses are judged against. You become the new benchmark by which all others are judged against. So if you, and I honestly welcome all of you to do this, if you want to go and see what that looks like, come into Xenox. It's 2 doors down. One of the first things that you see when you walk in is you'll see all of the jewelers' benches there where the craftsmen are making these beautiful pieces of jewelry. The next thing you'll probably see is my whiskey bar. Okay, there's champagne and gin and all that stuff, but predominantly whiskey because I love whiskey. When you look at that, we do things like whiskey appreciation nights, where we get clients to come in after hours, we get a guest speaker in, but we've also done gin nights, French champagne, Italian wine and cheese. We even did an espresso martini night one night. The idea behind that is I am doing the things that my competitors are looking at and going, too hard. I can't be bothered doing all of that, do these experience nights. The other thing is that frequently I'll go in, anyone been into like a suit place and you see almost that like that token whiskey trolley that sits in a corner somewhere and looks like it's almost never been touched. There's no point having an experience element in your business if people are not going to use it. So when a client comes in, we almost have these experiences within experiences. So what I'll do when a guy comes in, I'll say, are you a whiskey drinker? And a lot of times they'll probably say yes, or I don't mind it. And then we'll do a little bit of a tour of the whiskeys. And I open the bottle and I go, oh, smell that. And they smell it and they go, oh. We pour a whiskey, we start talking, and all of a sudden now it's just 2 people talking about what it is that you came in here for, rather than me being on this side of the counter and you being on that side of the counter. Can you see how that's a remarkably different experience to walking into a conventional jewelry store? So whatever your business is, find something that's a passion for you. For me, it's whiskey. I love whiskey. So find something, whatever it is, that's a passion for you that you can incorporate into your business. Because if it's not a passion, it won't be long lasting. Okay? So find something where you can actually get the clients enrolled in this amazing experience inside your business. I love it when a client comes to me and says they found me because of Google reviews. They generally make a decision faster, they typically spend more, and they don't care about the competition. How many of you would love clients like that coming into your business? Okay? So that is the power of having an incontestable reputation online. The truth is, if you're not converting 5 out of 10 clients that you see into a Google review, that you probably need a better system. How many of you people have asked someone for a Google review? Okay? What's your conversion ratio like? 1 out of 10? 1 out of 15 maybe? Typically, that's the number that I see with people in the beginning. Okay? And one of the key reasons, other than all of the other things that we covered in that pathway, is that they don't have a great script. Okay? So for me personally, when I'm with a client, my conversion ratio is usually about 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 clients that I ask for a Google review will leave me at least 1. Okay? But I've been doing this for over 5 years, more than 10,000 times of doing it. So for me, it's very natural. And I've spent the last couple of years really dissecting, well, what are the key elements in an amazing Google review script that helps me get these Google reviews. So I wanted to kind of share that with you in a bit. But one of the key mistakes, as I said, is not having it properly written and practiced. How many of you know this guy? I know the likeness is amazing, right? So Tom Cruise. Do you think that Tom Cruise gets to turn up to Mission Impossible 12 or whatever the number is we're up to now and says, Mr. Director, it's okay. I've done enough of these. I know what I'm doing. I'm Tom Cruise. Let me do my thing. Do you think that that's how it happens? Why not? It's because the movie writers and the promoters have worked out there is a perfect way that they can increase their conversion of box office hits, and that's by making him follow a script. They know the pathway. They know how to get an amazing movie out there. It's by having an awesome script and a plot. So this is the Google review script one of the ones that I use. And I've printed it out all for you to take home with you so that you can practice it as well. Now, again, being in the diamond business, I couldn't help myself. The acronym is obviously a carrot, written the way that we'd write a carrot diamond. I know, right? So here are some of the things to keep in mind when you're preparing your script. The first one is you've got to think about who is the client? Like, who is it that you're ultimately speaking to? Because if I was asking somebody that was a colleague for a Google review, or let's say my cousin for a Google review, or a client, I'm probably going to use different words and a different way of speaking. Okay? The next thing is the atmosphere. So you have to set the scene. So, hey, it was great seeing you at the Business Hub this morning. There's a little bit of an atmosphere, a little bit of a fluffy lead-in so that it just doesn't come out of nowhere. The next part is, hey, I'm on a mission to get to 50 Google reviews, or I really need your help, is something in the ask, the reason for asking. The action is where you'd actually put the Google review link to actually come through to your business. If you don't know where that is, in your Google business profile, on the home button, if you scroll down, you'll see a button there that shows you how to get the Google review request form. Okay? So that's where that is in your Google business profile. So a lot of times when people are first starting out, they're a bit unsure like who to ask. So it's okay in the beginning for you to ask family and friends to leave you a Google review. Okay? But sometimes people are a bit funny about that. Like, well, I've never done business with you, so how can I leave you a review? And to that I'd say, well, if they can't leave a review about what it's like to do business with you, maybe they can leave a review about what you're like personally. Hey, John is like a really honest guy. He really listens to people. He really cares about people. You know, all of those things are going to help you in that beginning phase of building a little bit of an initial start to your Google review portfolio until you can systemize it into your business of operations. Okay? The thanks is, you know, many thanks in advance. I'd be eternally grateful if you could leave that review for me. Another phrase that works really well in the thanks part is it really helps a small business like us get found on Google. I think that's one of the big things that I've noticed since this pandemic is there's been this real shift to people wanting to support local. How many of you have decided that you really want to support local a little bit more? You know, whether it's eat out at your local coffee shop, choose a local printer. It doesn't matter sometimes if you've got to pay a little bit more, but you really want to support local. So I find that if I use that in my phrasing, that also helps the conversion ratio a little bit. So it really helps a small business like us get found on Google. Who loves role-playing? We've got one person at the back. No one else loves role-playing? Yes, we've got two people. Why do you think role-playing is really important? Okay, because if you sit there and do it inside your head, it's never the same when you speak it out loud. Okay, so one of the things that we do at Xenox is that we frequently role-play and practice this Google review request side of things. Okay, we also film it because funny things happen that you're not aware of that you're doing sometimes in that process. So who would like to come and role-play with me now, asking for a Google review and get some coaching? Yes, come on down. Give him a hand. Okay, what was your name again? Evan, Karl. Okay, Evan, I'm going to do something now with you. I want you to ask me for a Google review. Just ask me for a Google review for about the next 20 seconds. Okay, and just keep asking over and over again.
Just say, can you give me a Google review?
No.
Google review.
No.
Can I have a Google review?
No.
Just one.
No.
Just a Google review.
No.
Take a second. Just a Google review.
No.
Come on, man. A Google review.
No.
It's easy. Can you do it? It takes a second. One
Nope.
Google review. Can you do a Google review?
No.
I just need this one Google review. Can you do it?
No. Okay, now, I know that sounded really funny, but why do you think I was doing that? Any ideas?
It's not good to be told no. It doesn't feel nice to be
You just become desensitized to it after a while. It's like, oh, I just got a no, I'll try again. I got another no, I'll try again. Okay, do the same exercise, ask me again.
Karl, can I have a Google review?
Yes, I'd love to. Keep going.
Karl, can I have a Google review?
Absolutely.
Can you give me 5 stars on Google?
Yes,
Karl, I'd love a 5-star review on
absolutely, I'd happily do that for you.
Google. Can you give me a 5-star review on Google right now?
Yes, I'd love to do that.
Karl, I need that review. Can you give it to me?
Yes. Okay, now, if it contrasts to how did that feel for you the second time around versus the first time?
Yeah, good.
feels great. Doesn't it feel great to kind of get someone tell you how amazing you are on Google? Okay? So I do this exercise to kind of show you that in the beginning, when you first start out on this adventure, it'll feel clunky. That's okay. Get your first 10 or 20 out of the way and then start going on to the better ones. All right? So now we're going to just practice, again, the Google review request side of things. So ask me, let's go back here, ask me for a Google review.
Karl, it's great to see you today. Love that you've come in. Look, I want to change this whole diamond industry and I'm on a mission to do it and I need your help. Can you just leave me a 5-star review so that I can make an incredible impact on all my customers?
Okay, awesome. Did he go do a good job? Yeah. All right, pretty good. So just a few little things from a correction point of view. Try to take out words like just or I personally never ask for a 5-star review, okay? Because it is a little bit presumptive, to kind of say, well, of course you're asking me for it. It's got a little bit of an ickiness factor to it. So all I ask people to do is to share their experience on Google. Now, theoretically, when you get to that point, you should never ask somebody to leave you a Google review if it's not been a great experience, right? All right, let's give Evan a hand. Thank you very much, Evan. If you're ready to take your first steps and you really want to absolutely kind of pimp out your profile, this is how you can generate a Google lead machine in your business. Okay, firstly, you want to look like we spoke in the beginning about optimizing your Google business profile to make sure that you've got all the keywords there. The second part is really focus on building your reputation. Once you've got that great platform and that foundation, the next thing you want to do is focus on generating those Google reviews. And then the traction part of this profile is, how many of you have ever learned something that you thought was really useful and helpful, and then you did it for a short time, and then you got some success, and then you just stopped doing it because you got busy? Yeah? Okay, so the traction is how do I make sure that I keep doing what I know is incredibly beneficial and keep it going so that I keep getting the same benefits that I got in the beginning? Okay, so accountability and goal setting and making sure that you keep the steam engine going so that you're generating these leads that come to you every single week. So some of you now have been sitting in this room and you've probably listened, but I'm asking you to go fast forward now 12 months into the future. And we're going to come to, say, July 2023. And some of you thought this was maybe an entertaining presentation and maybe you implemented, maybe you didn't. If you didn't, what's happening is that you're really kind of drifting through the year. And where you're going to be 12 months from now is probably not going to be a great space when you think about the things that are happening in our economy. But for those of you that take action, where your business will be 12 months from now is in a really powerful place. So the business owner's challenge is, how do you get onto that green line? And most importantly, how do you stay on the green line? Because the truth is, right now, wherever you are, the line is about as close as it's ever been to jump lines. Okay? The unfortunate thing is that too many business owners wait too long to jump lines. And the reality is, the longer you leave it, the riskier it gets, the harder it gets, and the more expensive it gets to jump lines. Do you notice another thing about those lines is that they arc and they curve downwards or curve upwards. And what that's showing you is that the results are accelerated either in the negative or the positive over time. One of the big differences between being on the red line and the green line is this inherent ability for business owners that really want to accelerate their results is to never settle. How many of you have that kind of feeling that you're just not happy settling? Okay? The reality is that the best businesses out there, the entrepreneurs, know that settling and just doing the status quo won't make you recession-proof. It won't make you pandemic-proof, and it certainly won't make you crisis-proof. Whatever's coming next. We've had GFC, we've had pandemics. Focusing on your reputation and how you're perceived in the marketplace is super important to kind of protecting you to whatever's coming next. So the question is, if not now, when? When would be a good time, do you think, to focus on building your online reputation? Well, the truth is probably 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But the second best time is now. There's never been a better time than now to work on improving your online reputation, working on how you're perceived by the market. So what I'm offering is, if anybody would love to have, I do these little audits of your Google business profile. if you'd love to have an audit done of your Google Business Profile, book in a time with me. That may or may not work based on the lighting in here. But if it doesn't, on the sheets that you've got on the final page, you should find that there as well. You can book in a time for me. What I'll do is I'll go through your Google Business Profile and I'll show you all of the different areas that you can do to kind of just tweak it, the simple little things that you can do to kind of have a much more powerfully presented Google profile. So that's on the last page, or you can scan it there. For this next exercise, is everybody willing to kind of play full out? Oh, everyone's nervous now. Is everybody willing to is everyone open to going through this next exercise? It's very easy, but there's a reason why. Because the easiest way for me to teach you how to do this with your clients is actually to do it with you. So is everybody willing to give this a go? Yeah? Okay, great. So I'd love for you to turn to the person to your right or to your left, and I'd love for you to share with them your biggest takeaway that you've gotten from this last hour and a half or 2 hours that we've had together. So just take a couple of minutes now, turn to the person to your right, left, behind, or in front, and just have a chat with them about the biggest takeaway that they've gotten out of today. Okay, I'd love to hear some shares from the room. Who will share about what was their biggest takeaway? Remember, there's going to be a reason that I'll illustrate at the end as to why I'm getting you to do this and how you can do this with your clients. Who will share what was some of their biggest takeaways that they got from this presentation so far? Yes?
I'm too passive with my requests. If you have time.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind.
Okay, good. So too passive with your requests. Keyword activation. Who else?
Getting more than one review out of a client.
Getting more than one review out of a transaction. What about from somewhere from the back? Anyone from the back willing to share what they got out of today? Yes? Okay, great. Sharing your experiences on Google. Okay, so you've just had an opportunity with your partners next door to kind of share what was your biggest takeaway. What I'm going to get you to do now is to share that experience on Google so that somebody else can have the same great experience that you've had. So if you could pull out your phones now. Yeah, you can see where I'm going with it. Yeah? So, okay, so if you can pull out your phones now. If you can't get the QR code, if you can open up your phones and go to Google Maps. This is another great way to get your clients to do this. Go to Google Maps. So open up the profile to Google Maps. Then search for My 5-Star Reviews. That's MY, the number 5, star reviews. And I'd love for you to share your greatest takeaway that you've kind of talked about with your neighbours and friends. So if the QR code doesn't work, which by all means, that is another great way to make it easy for your clients to leave a Google review, is to put it into a QR code. Okay, but if the QR code, because of the lighting, doesn't work in here, open up your phones and go to Google Maps and search for My 5-Star Reviews. There's going to be also a little bit of a bonus for the best, well, there's two bonuses. First bonus for the person who writes the best Google review. I'm going to give a 1-hour coaching session that they get with me one-on-one privately to work on their business. The second bonus is that for every Google review that we receive, we're going to donate an additional day to a young woman in the Philippines. Okay, so there's nearly 50 people here in the room. It could be potentially another 50 days that could go to helping lift a young woman and her family out of poverty. So I'll give you guys just a few moments to kind of go through and do that. So think about what was your greatest takeaway, what was your biggest aha moment. Remember I spoke a little bit earlier about the ignorant bliss. Just thinking now that we want to pay it forward to another small business owner that might be struggling for where are all the clients? How do I get found? Because I genuinely believe as small business owners that we really love what we do. And our greatest desire is to be able to do that with more clients. Okay? So there is someone else out there who's a small business owner like you, whether they're a photographer, whether they're a coffee shop owner, and they just don't know about this whole amazing Google business and how it can impact their business. And if they were sitting right next to you now and you could tell them about this and how they should look at it, that is undoubtedly going to make a big impact in their life. So you go to, I'll show you. So you've got the Google Maps there. So go to the Google Maps app, yeah? And so up the top there, type in my, M-Y, the number 5, yep, 5-star reviews, great. And then once you get to that thing, flick up until you get to the part that says reviews, there, click on that, and then you'll see the spot there where the stars are to kind of share. So, did you find it? So just there for reviews. Yep. And the internet might be a bit slow in here. So you're in the right spot.
I went on mobile because is there Wi-Fi?
Yes, there is Wi-Fi here. Is anyone else having problems with Wi-Fi?
No, I'm not on it.
Oh, you're not on it.
What is that?
So the Wi-Fi here is the capital -L3. So when you get to the My 5-star reviews profile, you just flick up, you click on the button that says reviews, and you write your reviews. Thank you. So in the beginning, when people are learning to ask for client reviews, and just as Evan showed us before, in the beginning it feels a bit harder, but then as you get better and better at it. So the beginning level, what we teach is to firstly get comfortable with asking for a review. The next level up from that is how do we keyword seed a review? So keyword seeding, remember we spoke about adding keywords to our Google business profile. There's a way to keyword seed a review so that you start optimizing. So if you remember on the first slide, when I showed you the reviews from Xerox, the number 1 keyword that was mentioned was engagement rings. A lot of times when I'm doing an audit of someone's profile, their number 1 keyword is something like felt or team, which is lovely, but it's not what people are searching for your business for. So you need to have your number 1 keyword showing up in your Google review. So another great pre-framing question when you're with a client is if it was. So if it was a great experience with us today, I'd love it if you could share it on Google. The reason I say if it was is that if you are worried that maybe it was a 4-star experience, maybe it wasn't like smashing it out of the park 5. If you say if it was, it presupposes in the client's mind that if it wasn't, I won't do it. But if it was, I will. Can you see that little psychological kind of, tip there to kind of help? And like I said, I always say, if it was a great experience, I'd love it if you could share it on Google so that somebody else can get the same great experience that you've just had. It's like my favorite saying by Mark Twain, I would have written a shorter letter if I had more time. Have you ever heard that saying before? I would have written a shorter letter if I had more time. What that means is that it's really hard to be concise. It's really hard to be intentional, on point with what you want to say. And so when I've been doing this for years is I've written out the script, culled words that just were not necessary. So all of the things like, if it's not too much trouble, you just cut all that out. So you get to just the pure essence of what you want people to do, which is to leave you a Google review. Just get show of hands. Anyone need a couple more minutes? Yeah, a couple more minutes. While that's happening, as I said, we're going to donate an extra day of education for every Google review that you guys leave. So what I thought was we've got some time now for Q&A. So are there any questions based on things that we've gone through or something that you had an idea while we were speaking that you thought, hey, I'd love to get some more clarity on that, either through the presentation or otherwise? Yes?
Yeah. Earlier you said it's important how people leave keywords in their review.
Yes.
What about the replies from the owners?
Yes.
Are keywords important in the
No. Well, Google says that pretty much when the client is leaving the review, that's where the keyword sensitive part. Because why? Well, Google kind of knows that if it leaves it up to business owners, I'm going to keyword stuff the response, right? So Google doesn't give the benefit of keywords in your response to a review, was the question. Okay, great question. What I'm going to do is also elaborate on that. Okay, it's really important to respond to every single Google review that you get, not just the good ones, not just the bad ones, but every single one. When you look at a Google business profile, you know you've got the number of reviews and then you've got the average score. How many of you think that the average score is the average of all of the Google review scores that you see? Just show of hands, raise your hand if you think it's the average of the number of Google reviews you have. It's actually not. There are a lot of other things that Google takes into account, like how quickly you respond to reviews, how many reviews you respond to, that it depicts what that average score is. So responding to reviews is super important. A little tip of what I do when I respond to reviews is also don't just write like a little like, oh, thanks. If a client's written you a really detailed review, show them the respect that they've taken the time to do a review and respond back to them with more than just a one-liner. The other thing that I do, if you check out any of my reviews and the responses to my reviews, is that I always sign off a response to a review with my name. Why? Why do you think it's important to sign off with a response to a review with your name? Personal touch. Okay, this is not some faceless company that's responding to reviews done out, you know, overseas. It's an Australian-based business that, you know, we're responding to every single review because we value and we respect the time and the efforts taken all of you to respond to those reviews. Great question. Yes? Yeah, okay, so if I understand your question is like, how do you work with a business that's not location specific? Okay, great. You don't have to put an address with your Google business profile. It's obviously better if you do in terms of location signals and benefiting from the local SEO around you when Google can drop a pin on the ground and say this is where the business is. But it is still effective, just not as effective if you don't put an address. But you can remove the address so that it's non-relevant. Although I would still argue that it's really great to have it. Now, while it's not ideal for you to do it, if you don't have, like, let's say you don't have an address that's not your home address and you don't want to advertise where you live on Google to all your clients, what I have known other clients to do is if they've got an accountant or something like that, say here in the city, is to kind of use that address as where you want to drop the pin. You just got to obviously talk to your accountant and make sure that they know that the Google postcard, if they send it out, is coming to that address so that they look out for it. In terms of whether it's a service products based or whatever, it really doesn't matter whether you're in a service base, whether you're online, whether you have bricks and mortar, whether it's visual or whatever. What is it that you do? Yeah, perfect, okay. So website design, right? There's absolutely no reason why, if you're like absolutely crushing it for your clients, that you can't ask them for a Google review. Yeah, so there's one company that I work with, their name is 5x5 Websites. You know, they have now over 200 5-star Google reviews. People can take photos of their desktop, you know, so let's say you build a website, they could take a photo of the landing page or something like that that you've done, upload that to a Google review to your website. All we want to do is really turn your client testimonials into SEO-powered Google reviews. Okay, so just imagine that you've done amazing work for a client and you just ask them like, are you happy with the work we've done? And they went, yeah, you're awesome. You were so easy to deal with. You were affordable. You gave great service. You go, great. Well, everything you just said, put it in a Google review. So if you look at the exercise, and I'm going to explain the strategy behind what I got you all to do. If I ask somebody for a Google review, the first thing that the client's already starting to think about is, oh, now I have to think. What was it? Thinking is hard work. I think Henry Ford said, thinking is one of the hardest jobs to do, which is why so few people engage in it. Okay? You want to try and not make your clients think more than they have to. So if I get you to verbalize, and I got you to do it in your teams, I got you to do it with me, if I get you to verbalize what it is that you've enjoyed, experienced, learnt, you've already now spoken the words, it's already come out. It's probably been easier for you to do that. And then all I've said is, hey, everything you just said, if you could just pop that into a Google review, here's the link, here's how to do it. It's super easy, and it takes 12 seconds, 28 seconds, whatever that is. As a small business and a local business, it would really mean the world to me, and I appreciate that. Can you see how that strategy makes it easier for a client to leave a Google review? And all of these things that I'm teaching you are things that I guess I've kind of worked out. I've done the brain damage to kind of work out why does it work, how does it work, how can I make it more efficient, how can I increase the conversion ratio? So instead of getting 1 out of 10 or nobody doing a Google review for me, how can I make it easier and better? Was that helpful? Cool. Anyone else? Yes, down the back. Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Great question. So I'll explain that. So there are 2 ways a client can leave a Google review for you. One is on Google Search, and the other one is on Google Maps. Okay? So Google Search is when we find the Google review request form inside of our Google business profile. So remember I said to you, if you go to the home button and you go down there, you'll see a Google review request form. That's on Google Search, if you're automating some systems to send that to a client. The other way to do it is on Google Maps. The benefit of doing it on Google Maps is that it is a little bit easier for the client to find it, and they can upload photos from their mobile phone. When you send the Google review request that's a search one, the client can only upload a photo from desktop. They can't upload a photo from their mobile. I don't know why they said it that way, but that's the reason why. It's also much easier for you as the client. Most people probably have the Google Maps on their phone. It's easy for them to find the profile and navigate. There's an extra step. They've got to flick up and click on the review button. There's an extra step there, but it's a lot easier, let's say in a room like this, or if I'm in front of a client and I say, hey, you got your phone there? Great. Do you have Google Maps? Great. They flick up. I say, just pull down Google Maps, go there, search for the business. You rate? Yeah, just flick up and just you click on the review button. You get there and you kind of walk them through. It's an easier thing to do is to walk a client through the steps of getting it. Getting a Google review in person is always going to have the highest conversion ratio. So when we talked about the happiness window, being able to do that at the time when you can see that the client's the happiness, they've communicated to you, hey, this was awesome, I got some really great value, that is the time. If I tried to do this by email later, how many of you ever asked somebody to do something and they said, yeah, no problem, I'll do it, and then they never did? Customers lie. Okay, they said they'd do it, but they didn't. Okay, but we get busy. And then really leaving a review for your business is pretty low on your client's list of to-do tasks. Okay, so using the Google Maps is just an easy way in a person-to-person way to do it when you're there. And if you're there and we're talking about architecture, because you do photography of architecture.
Yes, all architects of the client.
Okay, great. So you go on site, you show the client, you say, take a couple of photos, this one, that one. So a lot of times when I'm with a client, and I do this, I'll take some photos of their rings. Now, I'm not a professional photographer, but I'm really good at photographing rings on fingers. I know the angle, know how to zoom in, know how to get the lighting. And I show that to the client and I go, hey, is this a great photo? And the client goes, oh my God, that's amazing. Hey, could we share that on Google? The guy goes, yeah, how do I do it? I'll just pull out your finger and scroll up, and I just literally walk them onto the platform to leave a Google review for me. But just like asking you what was the greatest insight, I set it up by taking an amazing photo. Client is amazed by how awesome the photo looks, and they go, hey, can we share that on Google? Is that helpful? Yeah? Awesome? Yes?
Okay, so I've got an e-commerce business.
Wonderful.
So I don't have that face-to-face.
Yes?
So would you set it up at Inflows or
Yes?
just do it that way?
Yep. So we had this conversation actually down here in the front here, where sometimes people will get a product or service and they get the request straight away to leave a review. And I think you said, like, sometimes you see the review and it says, oh, we haven't unboxed it yet. Okay? That is a classic example of somebody not understanding where the happiness window is and asking for a Google review at the wrong time. So when you think about your client journey experience, Like, when is the best time to ask for a Google review? Have any of you ever heard of Google's Zero Moment of Truth? Has anyone heard of that? It was a massive research study that Google did, and what they found is that Google's Zero Moment of Truth was the time when your clients were searching and researching about your product. So I need an architect, I need a photographer. They're searching. Up comes the Google search. They see the top 3 people that they want to engage with. They do some research. The first moment of truth is the time that they first interact with your business. So that could be online on the phone. It could be visiting your website. It could be SMSing you, whatever that is. The second moment of truth is the time that they use your product or service for the first time. Okay? So understanding when to ask for the Google review in that system is ideally after the client has used the product or service and they go, this is amazing. Okay? Now, how many of you ask for Google reviews by email? You? Actually, the worst way to do it. But it's the way that most people do it. Okay, the open rate on an email is about 20% over 2 to 3 days. Open rate on SMS, anyone have a guess what the open rate on an SMS is? Probably closer to 90, 93, 95% within 90 seconds. Which way do you think is the better way to ask for a review? On SMS. So for you, if I was looking at your product, service, and your customer journey, it'd be like, where can I automate the request? You know, how can I build in some surprise and delight? How can I kind of pinpoint, okay, have they opened it? Have they used it? Do they love it? Tell me what you love about it. Can you share it? Kind of process. Yes, obviously you need to, for a digital e-product and things like that, you need to obviously get permission that you can send them to that. But if you can, that's the best way to do it. Okay? There are other really creative ways that people do with a product when it arrives, you know, in their marketing collateral using QR codes and things like that. So, but if you think about it, like, how does the journey happen? Like, you know, this is what Apple does really well, right? You know, that noise when you open the package the first time, you know, what are all of the things that you're building into that experience? Remember I talked about like experiences within experience? Like, what is the experience when they're opening your product, your service, looking at your photos, your videos, whatever that is for the very first time, and how can you make that more remarkable? If I make this 1% more remarkable, this 1% more remarkable, this 1% more remarkable, all of those together add up to something that's more remarkable, which makes it easier and makes the conversion ratio of getting the Google review easier. Because for a lot of people, it's kind of like, no, 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 no. Okay, yes. You know, when you've demonstrated, when you've given enough value, when you've done more, it's that law of reciprocity. If I give, and I do more, and I do more, and I do more, when I ask for something back, people are usually all too happy to do it. Okay? So it's just a matter of really looking at your client journey experience. When is the best time? How can I deliver that in a way that increases my... And test and measure. Ultimately, test and measure. Try something print, something in email, see if you can get the SMS, and work that way. Yes?
How do you get past if the client doesn't have a Gmail account?
Great question. It happens less and less these days. Every now and then I'm really surprised when someone says, oh, I've got a Yahoo account, or something like that, really bizarre. There is going to be a certain percentage of people that don't have a Gmail account, although I'm finding it less and less, and if it is, usually they're probably somebody in the older demographic. Most younger people have a Gmail account and multiple ones. So if you think about it, where do you think, or what do you think you could do with a review or testimonial if you can't capture it in a Gmail because they don't have a Gmail account?
Take a video with the client, post it on social.
Great. You could capture it in a video, turn it into a video testimonial. You could use it somewhere on the website. You could also post it or ask the client to post it on another review website. There's about 3 or 4 different platforms like Trustpilot, Womo, Word of Mouth Online. You can ask the client to take it from there and put it over there. Okay? It's still better than no review, and you will still get some SEO benefit from it. Not as much as using Google's own platform, but you'll still get some SEO benefit. One of the things you'll find is that if you look at your Google business profile, Google will pull in reviews from other platforms onto your profile. So sometimes you'll see Facebook reviews, you'll see Trustpilot, word of mouth, all of those ones sitting down the bottom. So it's better than nothing. Obviously Google's, but that's what I do when someone says to me, just don't have a Gmail account. But your chance of converting that is much lower because again, they've got to step through another couple of steps to get there. Good question. Any other questions?
You could potentially attach it to your website.
Yep. Yeah, you can attach it to your website. There's some really cool widgets that you can get for your website that actually show your Google reviews in an interactive format. So one way is to obviously have a dedicated landing page to your Google reviews, where all your Google reviews are placed. But you can also get widgets that are attached to your website that kind of scroll through all of your reviews, which is really cool because it becomes quite an interactive.
I was just thinking if people don't have a Gmail account, could you integrate it somehow where you can send it?
The only way that you could do it is by taking that review and then just putting it with an image or something like that on your website, through WordPress or whatever it is. There's no way to kind of, import that from and make it look like it's part of Google. It's Google's ecosystem. Yes? Okay, just say the question again so I can have. Yes. That's usually symptomatic of not following, some of the steps beforehand. And sometimes it happens that way. Again, there's not much you can do about that. And certainly a 5-star review is better than no review. But if you've done all of the right steps leading up to surprise and delights, remarkable client experience, persuasive priming, and all of that sort of stuff, it's very unusual that somebody would just leave you a 5-star, just a star with no that. So as I said, there are about 5 different levels of a Google review. The bottom one is just a 5-star. The next level up is like a one-liner. Hey, I went and saw Mary, she was great. The next level up from that is a detailed description where they leave like a nice paragraph. The next level up from that has the detailed description with keywords planted into the Google review. And the top level, which is a level 5, has everything below plus photos. So when you get 100 5-star Google reviews that have got photos, detailed description, keywords, all of that sort of stuff, that is really powerful from a Google perspective, better than just having a 5-star review. Does that make sense? Cool. Yes?
So we send a text message to the client, which usually visit the shop, let them post the review on the Google review.
Yep.
By the text message.
Yes.
So how you can do that? Just like send him via the WhatsApp, send him the phone number, and then you will put in, and they will jump to the
Yep. So there's a couple different ways that you can do that. You can pay for platforms to help automate that and make that easy for you, like SMS communication, like Text Magic, or there's a couple of different platforms like Podium that we use. Or like a lot of clients just do it personally from their phone. Like if you're a small business and it's just maybe you and maybe one other person, there's nothing to say that you can't just SMS the client directly from your mobile to their mobile. Yep. Are there any privacy issues? No, not usually. I think most people, if they're clients of yours, have given you their phone number. We're not talking about sending, like I've had it spammed, when people spam me for, 20% off this weekend, Black Friday. We're not talking about that. You basically said, hey, have you had a great experience? Can you share it? And they've said, yes. Hey, great, I'll SMS it to you. You'll get it in the next 2 seconds. Is that okay? Whatever. So I've never, ever found that to be a privacy issue. Great. Well, guys, hopefully this has been helpful for you in your businesses. Like I said, again, thank you for supporting the 10,000 Smiles campaign, for coming along to today and sharing everything. I'll be looking at the Google reviews that you've written. I'll be messaging you. So if you see in the response to your Google review, hey, you're the lucky winner, it's because I thought you had the most amazing Google review, and I'll book in a one-on-one coaching session with you. And I'll be hanging around here if you want to come up and there's some more questions that you want to ask. We're also recording some testimonials. So if you'd like to kind of feature and share, promote your business as well, we'll be doing that on behalf of the Business Hub to kind of help promote your business and just give some feedback for also anybody else that couldn't be here today about why this might be really cool. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming and, like I said, staying around.